Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about another shoe company, not Topo Athletic, that I've reached out to collaborate with. And this is just, I guess, backstory. I am not sponsored by Topo Athletic, even though on this channel I don't really review shoes. The reason for that is I don't want to have a continuous line of shoes to be reviewing because I don't want to steer clear when I really like a shoe. So I want to be able to find a shoe that I like and be able to run in it for the majority of miles. I don't want to have to keep rotating shoes and, finding other shoes that may work, but also finding shoes that may not work for me and having to put the miles into those shoes. So Topo Athletic sends me a bunch of shoes to review because I like the Topo Athletic lineup. I like the wide toe box. I like the minimal drop. And I just in general get along with those shoes. So I took a little bit of a risk here reaching out to Mount to Coast because they don't share some of the features that Topo Athletic has in their shoes that I really like. Things like the wide toe box. Now this is a wide toe box shoe, so to speak, but it's not a true foot shape shoe with the extra wide toe box for your toast display. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in these R1s, but they were kind enough to send me their lineup, or at least the majority of their lineup. This is the Mount to Coast R1, which I did unbox maybe a week and a half ago. And I've been putting some miles in on these already. I have about 30 miles in them. And then in these boxes, I have the T1 and the H1, which for naming conventions, I think those are genius naming conventions. R1 obviously is the road one, T1 trail one, H1 hybrid one. And we'll talk a little bit about each shoe here, but this is just the first impressions and kind of why I decided to reach out to them in the first place. Part of my voice too, I'm getting over some sickness. I've been wanting to film this video for the last 2 weeks and it just hasn't worked out with my voice being shot. Still got a little bit of that in me, but I think it's good enough to be filming, so pardon it. If it bothers you, then I guess go find another video. Now, all these shoes here are not new to the running world. They came out, I think, throughout the last year. Mount to Coast is a relatively new Chinese company that is taking on the running market with their shoes. And if you are on Instagram, you've probably seen them advertised to you if you are a runner. I know that I had, and I know that I had seen the R1s especially on the feed of a lot of people, YouTubers, Instagrammers, influencers. So there's definitely some reasons that they piqued my interest. I do like their general aesthetic in the shoes. They're very minimal. On some models, they got, Mount to Coast here. But I do like the aesthetic of the shoe. So let's quickly run down the shoes. Let's start, I guess, with the R1 since it's out. I believe this has the biggest heel to toe drop of the three with 8 millimeters of drop. So yeah, I pulled up a couple of the features because I don't remember them off the top of my head, but 8.5 ounces for the R1, a 8 millimeter drop with 27 up front in the forefoot and 35 in the heel. I was concerned with this much drop, to be honest, because I'm used to Topo having that 5 millimeter drop max, but I can tell you from running 30 miles-ish on these already that I really enjoy the drop. I really enjoy the support. And with that, let's talk about the toe box, because that was one of my other concerns. Topo Athletic has a nice wide toe box, a foot-shaped toe box, not a shoe-shaped toe box like this one. But I don't know if it's the laces and the dual lacing that lets you kind of leave it open. I really don't tighten the lower laces. I just kind of leave them there. And I tighten the top ones when I wear them. I've not felt any discomfort in terms of toe splay or like toe cramping. Granted, I haven't put these through a long run because I've been sick, but in general, really impressed with how much room the toe box seems to give me, even without like having that foot shape toe box sort of marketing, or I guess design to the shoe. They do use their proprietary light cell foam, which is the foam designed for this shoe, and I believe the other shoes use that as well. It does have a fair bit of creasing already after 30 miles, but that's to be expected. I can tell that I will be running in this shoe for a long time before they actually break down. On their website, it tells you that these were made, to go the distance. That there's a world record, I believe 725 miles or something like that ran on this shoe, and I can see why. They're extremely comfortable. I would say that they, for me, seemed a little bit stiff at the start, but after mile 10-ish of running with them, I really dig them. There is kind of a clicking. I think it's this black outsole. It makes kind of a clicking sound, but I mean, it's not the biggest bother, to be honest. More thoughts on the R1, after 100 miles. Let's go with the T1s next. I'll just pull one out here. Well, I guess I could pull both. So the T1 and the H1 are actually shoes that I have not put on and ran in. They're like brand spanking new. The R1 I just busted out because I couldn't wait. I knew I wasn't going to make the video with a fresh pair of R1s, but I honestly couldn't wait to try them out. This is the T1. Their trail shoe has a Vibram Mega Grip on the outsole there. It also has, I believe, that light cell foam on the midsole, and features their dual lacing system here too, for I guess that Mount to Coast patented dual lacing system, which is pretty neat, I will say. Now my only concern with this is the toe box does seem to be a little bit narrower, but I don't know if it's that's just how it looks versus how it feels on a run. I believe the lugs are 5mm lugs, so definitely enough to offer some good traction off-road. So can't wait to try these. These are the lowest stack of the three, or the lowest heel to toe drop, I should say, not the lowest stack, with 4mm. So 32 up front and 36 in the heel in terms of stack height there. This one has a little bit more of a flashy big Mount to Coast logo, but I dig the coloring on these, just like white and black, really makes that Vibram, yellow Vibram pop. So that's the T1. Excited to try these on and run with them soon. I also really like the lug pattern. The lug pattern is pretty unique. Let me see if I can get you better. Like, I guess that's one thing too that's not talked about, is Vibram Mega Grip is great, but every shoe manufacturer tries to do different lug patterns. I'm excited to try this one out. Looks awesome. Okay, and finally, let's talk about, I think, what is probably going to be my favorite of the three. The H1 Long Distance Road to Trail running shoe. Wow. So the H1 is, like I said, their hybrid shoe, road to trail. So offers lugs, but they're definitely smaller than the T1. This one has a midsole that they are calling Circle Cell. So it's an, again, new proprietary blend, I believe, that Mount to Coast has developed for their shoe, which is pretty fantastic. Like, just coming out with really good shoes, what seem like really good shoes from the get-go, and not using like someone else's midsole, but designing their own to fit the shoe is pretty awesome. Love the look of this shoe. I also like, this is, I can't remember the colorway, but the colorway's name, I should say, but they do have another one called Joshua Tree, I believe, and I really like that colorway as well. But I think, when they sent me the three, they just kind of went with the neutral white colorway, which I also dig. So this shoe offers 6mm of drop heel to toe, I believe 35 to 29 on the front. And I think this one is going to be a shoe that I get along with the most, not only because of the stack height and the heel to toe drop is the most similar. I guess the T1 is pretty similar in a 4mm drop. You know, with Topo, I'm really used to 5mm drop shoes. But the reason I think I will really enjoy the shoe is just the hybrid nature of the shoe. I like throwing on a shoe here in Colorado Springs and being able to run to a local park called Palmer Park that has some nice single track. It can get pretty technical at times, but I love that hybrid shoe. From the Topo lineup, I would use the Topo Athletic Ultra Venture 4 for that type of run. And definitely from Mount to Coast, I would be using the H1. Now, I know nothing about the difference in foam, circle cell versus light cell. This one, just from finger press and feel, seems a little squishier. But again, we'll see. Yeah, that's the lineup. I believe these are 2 or 3mm, just very shallow lugs. So that is it. Mount to Coast rundown, first impressions. I've only ran in the R1s, like I said. With that being said, I'm very excited to try all these shoes out because, like I said, I was nervous about the toe box. It hasn't been a problem so far. I was nervous about the heel to toe drop. Has not been a problem so far. And this is a shoe that really gets me excited to run again. So I hope the T1 and the H1 do the same thing. I didn't say it at the beginning of this video, but this video is not sponsored by Mount to Coast. Like I said, I just reached out to see if they would collaborate and send me some of their shoes to try. Not a big fan of testing out a ton of shoes, and I just really wanted to try the Mount to Coast lineup. So coming from a Topo user, first impressions, I really dig the R1. We'll see what the other shoes have in store. And of course, I'll be reviewing these pairs of shoes after reaching 100 miles in each pair. Stay tuned for that if you're interested, coming from a Topo Athletic perspective. Thank you, Mount to Coast, for sending these out. See you guys in the next one.